the chair would like to call this meeting to order. First order of business, the acceptance of the agenda for tonight.
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll support.
Any comments? All right, then can I have a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. All right, so the next thing would be petitions from the public. I'd like to remind you that you have 5 minutes to say what you'd like to say, and that's it. So choose your words carefully. All right, Nate.
Okay, I object to the holding of the meeting, period. There's only 2 members of this body that were legally, should be here, and I even question that legality because there's no record in the minutes of their appointment whatsoever. No record at all. And nobody at this table can tell me how long your term is. Not one. Please speak up if somebody knows how long their term is. Not one. Your terms have not been set. Nobody at this table except Ms. Sharon Anderson and Debbie Aubin has taken an oath of office, which is a prerequisite under the Constitution of the state of Michigan and the Zoning Enabling Act. You guys can ignore this all you want, but you don't have a quorum and you're unable to open this meeting. Also, the membership itself is illegal. Under the Zoning Enabling Act, there can only be 1 person on the board that is not a qualified elector of the village. You have 4. The reason why you have 4 is to keep people like me out from putting input in. You're supposed to have the input of the whole community. You know, just because some people want to pass by once and just give their opinion and not be questioned doesn't mean I can't be heard. Doesn't mean that we can't do things by law, state law. When your child gets in a car and makes a U-turn where it says no U-turn, do you tell them it's okay because you didn't get caught? No. Do you tell your kid that they can steal candy from the store just because they don't get caught? No. We create laws and constitutions in this country to allow us justice and freedom and equality, and we deserve that. You know, when this body, this village, does all these appointments against the law, there's no reason for it except to keep people's voices from being heard. There's no reason whatsoever for these appointments to go illegal when there's no record of who's on what board. You know, that just keeps people in office because they say, oh, well, my term's not up yet. You know, you have to follow the law. If you don't follow the law, then bad things happen. Decisions made by the Planning Commission get reversed. Decisions recommended to the council get reversed in court. Decisions by the Zoning Board of Appeals get reversed in court. These things have to be done the correct and proper way. If you follow the ways of those who would tell you it's okay to break the law as long as you don't get caught, then you are surely deserving of prosecution under the law. You know, when you use your office to enable a meeting that's illegal, you are surely guilty of official misconduct in office. Colleen, you've been kind of thrown into this, you know, you weren't aware of this, but anybody that takes the responsibility to be on a planning commission, and you're speaking for the whole community, 700 people, you're speaking for 700 people, and you don't read your responsibilities, you know, the Zoning Enabling Act, you got to learn these things. It wasn't that hard. Only took me 15 minutes to read it. You know, if you choose to ignore the law, I'm going to call you out on it every time. And I'm not only going to call you out on it here, but I'm going to call you out on it from the tallest building in Calumet. I'm going to scream at the top of my lungs, and everybody's going to know. But let's do it right. I don't want to scream at the top of my lungs from the tallest building. I want to do it right. If Dave Geisler would have done what he said this afternoon and came up here and sworn you guys in, it wouldn't be a problem. But no, he decided to stay at home because he wanted to avoid doing it right. Y'all have a good meeting. Give me a call, Sydney.
Okay, I would like my 5 minutes. Okay, and it will be just part 2 of what I was saying before. If you go to page 49 in your zoning ordinance, zoning ordinance, at the bottom it says, this is what the section is titled authorization. This is what you guys are authorized to do. You are authorized for each application of a conditional use permit, the Planning Commission shall, it's mandatory, report to the Village Council its findings and recommendations, including the stipulations of additional conditions, and guarantees that such conditions will be complied with when they are deemed necessary for the protection of the public interest. Okay, so you see, you guys get to say, you know, Dawn Anderson told me, she said, if you're concerned about Priscilla, why don't you let her live in your house? That's what she told me. So this is an issue. There are low-income people that live here, and people will come and they will try to be business-oriented and make money off of the people who live here. We don't want this town to become a shell. You want to have people who live here, who are residents, who participate, who like living here. And, you know, you get to write these stipulations. You get to recommend them to the council, okay? You get to recommend something like this. You can say there has to be a cool-off period of 1 year, okay? So if they do decide to go ahead and they evict somebody to run a business in a residential home, then they have to wait 1 year after that eviction, okay? So that means they have to be really dedicated to that idea. There are those, I looked those up. Those were ideas that were, where I looked up Los Angeles, I looked up Seattle. I mean, these are big cities, but these are cities that have dealt with this longer, and they've got thousands of them going on, and they see the problems that develop. So all we can do is listen to them. You can limit the days that per year that the host can list on Airbnb. You can say they can only do 75 days a year. I mean, so that it lightens. You can list they can only do weekends. You know, you have the world to write, as your ordinance says, stipulations of additional conditions. Here's some more examples. You can limit the use to the non-parking ban season. So then it's summertime, and they can park right in front in their 35 feet, okay? You know, I think Don Anderson and Bob Turner are nice people, okay? And I hate that this has to come up, but I have to live by it. They don't live here. They live, Lorium, I think, they don't have to live next door to it. Some municipalities are saying, if you do these Airbnbs, they have to be the primary residence of the owner. That means somebody's on site. If they lived in one side of the duplex, they would hear what's going on the other side of the wall and be able to manage it, and then it would be manageable in the area. I mean, there's ways to allow this. There's stipulations you can put. If somebody owns their house and wants to rent a room, wants to rent the other side of their house, but because they're there, they have a stake in the game, and they have to listen to the rowdy party that's going on. Because my fear is that it's not a beautiful scene. When people come to the Keweenaw, they're going to go to a cabin. They'll go to the Lorium Manor because there's this beautiful residential scene. The scene outside that place is a machine shop, okay? So the people are probably going to be people who are going to try to save a buck, okay? The young skiers, they're going to try to go there, and then they're going to drive to Mount Mohegan or something. So, you know, there are many things you can do. You can say no pets, because you can see that from, I didn't get to pass out pictures of the yard that is actually my yard, because they have, you can see, here we've got the property line, okay, of their yard. They have this little yard. But on the top picture, you can see they step out the back door, they're stepping on my yard. They step out the front door, they're on the sidewalk. If they turn, then they're in my yard. So
Your time is up, Cindy.
there's no buffer zone.
Thank you for your input. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
I'd just like to make a couple of comments as a member of the public, residents of the village, and also on the trustee. My only comment would be, hopefully when we have the meeting on Friday, we have a public input session. I'm not sure, I don't know if anybody looked into the legality of this, but I hope you give the public enough time to say what they had to say, because that really is a public input. I'm not sure you can limit them when it's a public hearing like that, because the whole purpose of the meeting is that, but I'm not real sure. The other issue I wanted to, and we can't consider right now in the House of Representatives and the Senate, there's a bill sitting since April in the legislature. It's HB 4503. And what it does is, right now, if you've got a residential structure and you want to rent it out for 28 days or less, you have to have a conditional permit. And then, well, this is what the law, if you read the law, that's what it says. But if this bill passes, then you become commercial, because you're gonna have this thing. If this law passes, there's gonna be no more commercial ratings at all. That's, they read the bill, that's kind of what it says. So, like, for instance, Lori's in a commercial, you're considered commercial, so that doesn't apply to you at all. But if you're in a residential area, this new bill will not put any limitations on you if it passes. If you want to look it up, I mean, I read it. I'm no attorney, but you may not even have to consider these things when we're going to pass.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, I will look that up. Any other comments? All right, so the rest of the meeting, we will make our discussion here. All right, so there are comments about the condition of... Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. Could we have the approval of the last August, it was July's minutes?
I wasn't here.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Minutes of July 11th.
Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any comments?
The only comment I have is, I don't know if, these were the minutes, there will be a public hearing on August 8th, and that was changed.
Yeah.
Is that still fine in the minutes?
It's fine because that's what we decided.
That's what we decided, okay,
Yeah.
all right. That's my only.
Good catch. Any other comments? All right, I'll call it. All in favor of approving the minutes as they are?
Aye.
All opposed? Right. And now, the conditional use permit. Comments, questions, or
First of all, to address Virginia's comment, I have an article here that states that House Bill 4503 and Senate Bill 329 are exactly the opposite of what you said. Both of these bills state that short-term rentals such as an Airbnb would be a permitted use in all residential zones. They are taking the zoning away from local authorities regarding Airbnbs.
If I could interject, that's what I said, there could be, now they have to be rated commercial if you give them a conditional use. That's exactly what I said, they're now just gonna be residential.
Just,
Yeah,
yes,
that's what I stated.
So local zoning is not gonna make any difference?
correct.
Okay.
And this is, admittedly, these bills have not been approved, but this is a result of what has happened in lower Michigan, mainly along the Lake Michigan shoreline and the resort communities there, where Airbnbs have gotten to be so plentiful and Local ordinances try to put in severe zoning restrictions, and they've been challenged. The other comment that I would have relative to the comment that this is taking away housing in Calumet based on the demographic data that was provided to us. Calumet currently has 27% housing vacancy rate. So Airbnb 1 or 2 is not going to significantly affect housing in Calumet.
All right, very good, thank you, Chris.
Well, from a personal point, I have stayed in Airbnbs, and they're wonderful. They rate you, you rate them. You can put in there what you want, no pets, whatever. And I think you get a quality of people that you don't always get in hotels. I think they're more respectful. And I think if this was to be agreed upon, it would be upon review, which we may not even have to go that far if this legislation passes, but to be reviewed after a certain period of time, just in case there are no problems or whatever. So that's all I gotta say.
I operate Airbnb and a longer-term rental above our shop in the commercial district. So I am wondering if I should just, I don't know if you want me to leave, if you want me to just abstain or not comment or not vote. What should?
My feeling is that if you could wait out in the hall, that would look better.
Sure.
But please don't leave, because we're gonna need you for the next chunk of business. Thank you, Lori. She what? Oh, is that all right?
Yes.
The other issue that I became aware of when I started looking into this is that at one time there was a lot of complaints from the hotel and motel owners that they had to collect a 6% tax and these people weren't doing it. And in order to collect the state tax, you then have to be a registered state business. Effective July 1st, Airbnb made an agreement with the state of Michigan that they are collecting the state tax. It shows to me, and there's every indication that Airbnb is and is trying to make this as legitimate as possible. So if there was to be any condition that I would consider putting on this is that the applicants go through a recognized and established listing authority as an Airbnb.
Okay, that was an issue that I thought of as well. We've been focusing on Airbnb because they are well known and they are very good. But what if a person just decides to do it on their own? Just has their own personal website and invites people, and there's no accreditation, or even if there is accreditation, what if somebody just does it on their own, not through Airbnb? How does that affect what we're discussing today?
I know that Airbnb, they hold insurance for the people that have the properties. I think in the case like that, if that was to come up, I think you'd have a right at this point in time to say no. Because because there are none of the structure that Airbnb has that makes them better than, you know you're going to a place that has, they're just cut above the rest. That's just my thought.
So they have to have, I guess you're saying they need to have a vetting process, either, because you can't say you have to use Airbnb.
Correct, you can't.
But if they have a vetting process that's similarly approved of, say, as an Airbnb or something like that.
Yeah, there's one that's like DRLO or something. There's a couple of that are like Airbnb. But
that's using that as a, kind of like Xerox and Fox.
Point and consider are other lodging units in the village that currently exist, and we know there are some, do they face that requirement of having to use an accredited system?
Probably we don't know about it. We just do it.
No, I mean, we have no rental inspection in the village. And my understanding is what ends up making this situation unique is that rentals under 28 days are considered a business. If you rent by the month, then you are a landlord and you don't charge sales tax. If it's less than 28 days, then you're similar to a hotel or motel and are required to collect a state use tax. So, this vetting process, if a private owner wanted to do it, I don't know how you could stop that.
How do you monitor?
Yeah, I think what we're looking at is that people that are going to the internet and going through a website, and if I do a search for rentals in Calumet and something pops up, those are the type of, we want to make sure that it's a recognizable organization, I guess.
I mean, I've gone on Airbnb and typed in 49913, and it's amazing how many, not just in the village, but in the township that are out there. You go, oh, wow, And another thing is if you have people out there that are doing it that aren't going through any of these organizations or companies, if they are a lower caliber, the neighbors will certainly let you know if there's problems. And then you're just gonna have to put a kibosh on it, but I haven't heard of anything, so.
All right, let's address the parking issues.
This is also vacation rental by owner, not just
That's,
Airbnb.
okay. That's the one I was looking at, because I know it has 4 letters and it starts with a B.
VRBO. Yeah.
Pass it on down.
Yep. I had, in the zoning, in the village zoning ordinance, there's a number of restrictions as far as parking, but one thing that was omitted is on this page 22, number 12, is application of parking and loading regulations. Anyone give Sydney a copy of that?
No, I have the whole thing here.
It says, parking and loading regulations shall apply to all buildings and uses of land established after the effective date of this ordinance. However, parking and loading requirements may be reduced on a case-by-case basis by the Calumet Village Planning Commission. This flexibility recognizes the difficulty of providing off-street parking in the village of Calumet. Okay, so off-street parking requirements shall not apply in C1, still not apply. So, if Dawn Anderson has other types of parking available to her, the zoning ordinance allows her to use those parking, other types of parking. So summer or winter should not be an issue then, as long as she applies.
Does anyone else have any comments or issues they'd like to bring up now? I'd like us to remember that this applies only to this conditional use, only applies to this one dwelling. Anytime somebody else comes along, we're gonna go through this again.
Oh, yeah.
Or if she should sell the property, it would not transfer to the owner, correct?
No, it will.
It just would be, it stays with the current owner or the property? Oh, okay.
Pat, speak up. What did they just
I'll
discuss?
let
You
them
know
make
the
a motion
answer.
to approve the conditional use permit then.
All right, with any restrictions regarding who the vetting process is. Let's mention that in there.
Like I said, it's hard, once you do that, it's hard to you know, it's hard, how are you gonna follow up on it to approve, to make sure they're doing it? You kind of have to use, I guess, you know, past experience now that she's been through, like, in order to rent one side of the apartment, or one side of it, she's been through like 35 applications before she would finally approve one. So, speaking to her as far as that, and it sounds like there's, you know, she's responsible as far as running her own vetting process for it.
All right.
And I'm comfortable that she has parking available for, obviously, for summer or winter also. So I think that should take care of that.
All right. Can you please restate your motion?
Okay, so I just like to make the motion to approve the conditional use permit with that she has parking. I know she has available off-street parking for winter. And that's the only restriction that would place on that then.
Should we put in there like reviewable in 6 months or a year in the event that, you know, just to review any problems or?
6 months from now will be winter.
Or
So,
a year.
who knows?
No, I mean, the town we usually do a year, we usually have it and it's not like we review it, you know, we don't really review it, what we do is if someone just complains or something, it gives us
I
a
mean,
chance.
Yeah, we could make it, you know, make it good for 1 year, and then if we want to, I'm not sure if that's something we want to look at it, like, see if there's, you know, if we could possibly review it. I don't think it has to be a formal review process.
No, I agree.
Or a formal approval process, but we can review it. I'm not sure how that would actually work then. We could actually review it.
You can only review it in terms of conditions that we placed on it. So you're not really putting it on, right? You're gonna allow the use. Because they've said they provide on-street parking, so you could say that could be a condition that they provide off-street parking as needed, as they determine they need it. If they don't, they're gonna get ticketed and towed, right, in the wintertime? So is that really an issue? You know, obviously they want to run in winter, they need off-street parking. And so they've indicated they have some potential arrangements for that. So if there's no condition, then what do you review?
I mean, it's something that we have done, but then we have different issues, you know, when people have, like, businesses with parking and, you know, forget I said anything.
So on what basis would you rescind, you know, the conditional use permit?
If it becomes a nuisance to the neighbors, I mean, if the people are
Based
really obnoxious,
on,
loud parties, if they break laws, litter, trash, the same thing anybody else would get ticketed for. But that would just be certain renters, right?
Yeah, certain people, individuals.
Then they're not gonna be there more than 28 days.
when the police go there, they tell them to shut down the party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You
yeah.
know, I guess you just want to be careful about having a 1-year review based on, you know, what's the criteria.
What's the criteria, right?
Would we have a review based on the fact that we're going to be changing the zoning ordinance? Or the zoning ordinance may change as a result of this planning commission?
Then you could do that just on your own accord and not have you know, require them to come in and report or something. You know, you say, well, we're getting lots of calls over there, kind of thing. And I guess at that point, if you are, then it becomes a law enforcement issue, not really a zoning issue, right? So we could have a long-term rental in there that would be, you know, meth house or, you know, loud parties, college house, you know, that kind of thing. You know, and then it becomes a law enforcement issue. So noise and so forth, disturbing peace, that's a law enforcement issue, not a zoning issue. That'd be my recommendation.
All right, thank you.
You could review it internally in terms of developing new regulations to address this growing thing. And I think that's a very good idea.
But if it's, the law gets passed, then
It's out of our hands, then
it
it
won't be
Right.
our hand also. So at this point then, I guess I restate my motion to approve the conditional use permit with no restriction.
You can't make that motion. You can approve a permit, the council approves the permits. All you can do
We can
is
make a
recommend.
recommendation.
Make a recommendation, you're making a recommendation.
Make a recommendation. Yeah.
Do we need to add the parking condition because of the fact that we are reducing the parking requirement? Because there's no parking.
That would be a good thing to note in the recommendation that you're reducing the parking requirement for the proposed use. Per section, whatever it is, Joe, maybe minutes, you might want to spell it out.
Okay, so I'll restate it then. So making a recommendation to approve the conditional use permit and reduce the parking requirement per zoning ordinance 127, page 22, paragraph 12. Okay. So that's my motion.
I will make this motion.
Second.
You gonna second it?
Who made it? Someone else? Oh, you did, oh, I'm sorry, I'll
I
second
made
it.
the motion.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it.
We'll go back to-
Yes, Laura, you can go back now.
All right, then, back to your patients.
Yes, thank you.
Well, good job on that. You know, it's a new thing, the Airbnb, vacation rental by owner, whatever you want to call it. I mean, let's see, let's go. Hopefully I can get connected.
And I want to say, I am really impressed with this. This is very inspiring. I read through it and makes me excited. The things we can do.
Were you surprised?
Not really. I was just glad to see we're so closely on the same page. Like all the winter stuff, I'm like, this is great. I didn't know about planting deciduous trees on the north side and conifers on the east and west side because they both do different things. Well, what a great idea.
Oh, the winter stuff, yeah.
I'll do that at my house.
There we go. All right. Ta-da. Okay.
Ta-da!
So last time we met, we had some training, and hopefully that was very helpful today, so good job to everybody. And again, it's good to be as specific as possible in these motions, and to, just be thoughtful as you go forward with your duties as planning commission. Not easy. So since then, it kind of resurfaced that the funding that is planned for this plan was intended to get this plan done by the end of the year. And so, Joe and I discussed that, and I projected out what needs to happen. Suddenly, it became very important to get a draft on the table now. And, that gives us some time to revise it, of course, based on your input. But also that, we need to get it to the village council as soon as possible in order for them to approve the draft for public use. So it goes out, so today, I guess we're asking, and the planning commission said, there's enough here today that we can release it for public review. And we can continue to tweak it and modify it up, through the final adoption of the plan. But we want to get it to the village council and have them at least release it for public information. And there's a process, there's a 63-day waiting period to allow the community, but also stakeholders such as power companies and county planning commission and so forth to make comments on the plan.
When I was reading through this, I think there's two parts to to input. One is, the spelling, grammatical corrections, stuff like that. We don't need to worry about those now. We can send those, if anybody wants to just send them to me, I can consolidate them and send them to Pat then. That way we don't have to worry about that stuff. I mean, really, I think we're looking at what the substance
Content.
so we can just concentrate.
I mean, if
on
there's
that.
an obvious thing, hey, yeah. But really, and again, the master plan is policy. It's not law, but it's policy. And so that's what we want to talk about tonight, is the direction this thing is going. And we do have, it's wonderful to dream big about Calumet. And the potential is so fantastic here. However, I really try to focus on kind of the here and now and not get too carried away with the big stuff. And then what happens is you need to make progress on meeting these goals and strategies now, or in the next 2 years. And once that, you make that progress, then you can start to think big again. But there's some real basic things here that I think, we need to work on. So that was kind of my approach. And, we'll kind of whip through it here, I guess. Because you all have copies, you can read faster than I can talk.
Pat, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to back up to what you were talking about, the schedule.
Yes.
If we need to get it done by December 31st, so you'll need some time to collect any additional comments people will have, right?
Let me just go to that project schedule.
Cindy, you have a copy
Of what?
of the
Okay. So I was a few days late getting it to you. On this last Friday, to all of you. So tonight, September 12th, here we are, presentation. And I'm glad that we have some council people here as well, because, you're a key player in this. So, I take some input tonight. If you need any immediate revisions, I can get that done in the next few days, so that on September 18th, the draft can be submitted to the council to approve, the distribution of it.
Now, when you say provide the council, normally we provide the council documents on Friday.
So what's that date, the 14th?
That's Thursday. Friday's the 15th.
15.
Yeah, so that would be the intent.
Okay, I just want to make sure you'll be able to get it to them in time.
Okay. Unless you guys totally rip it apart, then, you know, I'll be back to the drawing board, but, you know, hopefully we're not there. So then, you know, the clock starts ticking on that 63-day comment period. And meanwhile, like I say, you know, we can continue, you know, to run through it and add things and make changes.
So, see, then where it says release public review draft and notification starts 63-day comment period, is there a public hearing at that point, or?
No, on November 20th, so we'll do a public hearing.
All right.
Following the 63-day comment period,
All right.
and then we'll go to council
Okay.
after that.
One of the recommendations was that Main Street, that they would, if they might be able to put it on their website, if that would be okay.
That'd be awesome, yeah. That'd be awesome.
Obviously,
In fact, that way we
we'd have
send
to-
out the notifications.
Right. And
You
we have
can
to
cite that,
available.
you can, you know, give them that link and they can go there.
Mhm.
That'd be wonderful. Otherwise, I can put it online too, but it'd be better if it was on Main Streets. Okay? So just a, you know, that's a good thing to bring up is that, and I guess the advisory commission did say that they have a little bit of flexibility on this. But this is our goal, to get it done by the end of the year. Okay?
All right,
Good.
thank you.
And I think we can do it. You know, unless I totally missed the mark. Hopefully not. So here's our table of contents. We have 11 chapters, and then we have an appendix with some maps, as well as some background information. The community improvement, capital improvement plan was done by UP engineers a year ago. We have community survey results. We have the community engagement summaries that was done by Brad Newman of MSC Extension and the census data. So the appendix was not complete in this copy, and we do not have all the maps done yet, but you know, we're getting close on it. And we may not even have a recreation action plan. A recreation action plan is a if the village is going to want to apply for DNR recreation grants for like Agassiz Park, then you need to demonstrate that. And when we get to the recreation chapter, I'll go through that, but that map accompanies that recreation plan.
Excuse me, can you make that one thing bigger? If you can? I can see that, but I can't.
Well, maybe we're gonna try and do this.
We're good. As long as I know where you're at, I'm good.
Okay.
So this is better?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we have an introduction, talks about the significance of Calumet Village, talks about some of the history of the area, talks about some of the success you've had in downtown. At the same time, Village continues to face a number of unique challenges. Aging population, changing preferences for ways to live, and so forth, and constraining inadequate municipal budgets. So what we try to do with community planning is balance all that, you know, the money side along with the public interest, business interest, the residents' interest, and so forth, to try and achieve that balance. So, you know, this isn't the first time there's been planning done in the village, going way back to, first one I've seen, 1979. Of course, initially, the mining company, CMH, did a plan, you know, for the village, and the village green, churches go here, here's where the businesses go, and so forth. right? They did. But in 1979, kind of a landmark study was done on the Calumet Historic District Plan. And it was funny, Brad Newland, who helped out with the community involvement last year, his father worked on that study. His father's an architect. It's kind of interesting. So then Michigan Tech students have done, some work here. KIDA did really nice development prospectus, which talks about all the property opportunities, both publicly owned and privately owned, and there's quite a few buildings. So this section then of the introduction talks about community involvement, explains the process that we went through last summer with the survey, with the couple of workshops that were held. In the summary, it's right out of the survey. People feel quality of the community has decreased. Roadway, 75% dissatisfied with roadway maintenance. 31% of residents, long-term residents, said the quality decreased. On average, people are either neutral or satisfied. And, people said we need to get more business in here, and we need to attract more young people. That's kind of the summary. And then again, we had community planning workshops, and we did have a pretty good turnout for those. I happened to come just for interest, and saw people enjoying themselves as they marked up maps and talked about things that were important to them. So then the next section of the introduction kind of provides the legal basis of the master plan and really information from the Public Act 33 2008. Again, the purpose of the plan is it's a policy, it's a guide for future development, promoting public health, safety, and welfare. So, next chapter, vision guiding principles, this is the shortest chapter. And, this is something we talked about at our last meeting. This is the statement. And then the guiding principles. And then we've got something really unique here. It needs to be protected. Continue to work on economic development, downtown revitalization, strengthen neighborhoods, and collaboration with the National Park Service and other people. You've got KIDA, Calumet Economic Development Alliance, taking special interest in the village and trying to promote the development here. They feel it's very important. So you got to work with those people. You're not going to be able to do it alone, and you know that. So housing, some of the data from the census. There's that vacancy rate somewhere in here that we mentioned. But it's interesting, if you look at two statistics here, owner-occupied and renter-occupied units, most communities, those numbers are flip-flopped. You'll have 70+% owner-occupied and 30% or so renter-occupied. Exactly the opposite of most communities in the Upper Peninsula.
Is that similar in, if that's similar in Moya, Township, is like areas like that?
No, it's unique to
It's unique to the county coast.
Yeah, like Calumet Township, there really aren't that many. I shouldn't say there aren't many renters, but multifamily, But I did not look at what their data is on this, but I suspect it's much different.
Go ahead, Laura.
I have just a slight historic comment on that. I think it's I think Calumet has always been more boarding houses, you know, from the mining and the residential, you know, owner.
I was just
So
thinking.
it's a
the same,
historic
yeah.
context that is, and it continues, you know, I mean, so I don't know, it's sort of always been that way.
Does housing unit refer also to apartments? Like
Yes.
above
Mhm.
shops?
An apartment is a housing.
Okay, so for statistics, Houghton County is 69% owner occupied, and 49913 zip code is 76%.
Owner occupied,
owner
so
occupied.
more than higher than
And Calumet's 28.
It's
the
49913, that's Calumet, Boream, and the township, right? Everybody, all the mail that comes to this post office.
It was up at 76%. At the village of Calumet is down at 28% for owner occupied.
Yeah, I think you're right, Laura, I do.
So it's a unique situation here, but a lot of it, you know, with the high density downtown, apartments upstairs, mixed use, and then many of the bigger older homes, this problem, you know, who can afford to maintain and heat big historic home these days? Not very many people. I mean, so they have been converted over the years to rentals. Yeah, the occupancy, here's the, you know, there's 512 total housing units, 376 occupied. So, you've got a lot of vacant.
Now, the vacant housing units, do those include, you know, buildings on Fifth Street that are uninhabitable?
They would come.
All, okay.
That's right, it doesn't differentiate between condition. But, you know, there was this TMI, target market analysis done. Whooper got funding through the state, they hired a firm, they looked at the housing market in Hope County and specifically within cities and villages. And so this bold is a kind of a summary of the results of that. I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's on Whooper's website. But this kind of got people surprised. But we didn't think there was any housing demand here in Oakland County. Right? It seems kind of stagnant, population's flat. But you know, they're saying almost 1,800 attached units annual.
What's attached unit mean?
Attached units, those are apartments, townhouses, and you
Okay,
know,
yeah,
as
so
opposed
there's
to
multiple
detached.
family homes.
Plus 974 detached houses. Now, a lot of that's going to go where, you know, Hope and Hancock kind of growth areas in the county. But there's still 529 migrating households in Hope County every year. So that's all part of the demand.
This is last
For
year.
here, and then it breaks that down by, you know, say, Calumet 15 attached units, 15 new units. Those are annual numbers. So again, it just seems like every other house is for sale. A lot of empty properties, but yet there is demand here, and people are looking for nice places to live. So this table breaks down the demand for some of the Okay, so I think that's really good stuff, you know, that there is a need, there is a demand for more housing units, and you are in a good position to capitalize on it and to attract developers to these underutilized buildings that you have in the community and get people to develop them to meet this demand. And a lot of the demand is millennials, you know, the younger people, and that again is part of your some things that some people wanted to see in the village was to attract young people. So, housing goals, address substandard housing and property conditions. Well, how do you do that? Adopt property building maintenance code. And there are some real simple ones that you can adopt, and it needs to be enforced. And just a little refresher on what goals and strategies are. Goals are broad statements, strategies are more specific, okay? And then there's other things here you can do, but first I think you really need to clean up the town. There's only one way that's going to happen.
One thing that jumped out at me on strategy 1.3, the vacant building registry. And I wanted to
Start doing inventories, huh?
Yeah.
You don't know.
And then charging people a fee for having a vacant building.
You gotta get tough on these people. You know, in the way the tax situation is, these property values are so low, people can buy these properties next to nothing and like sit on it. And of course they think, well, someday it's gonna be worth a lot because that's a national park. Right?
That's where
Well, meanwhile, they're dragging the whole town down.
we get some absentee owners that buy buildings on tax sales and never have seen them.
Right.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, there's people do it all the time. And just,
And it's in
Is that
substandard shape.
yeah, you pick up a building for a couple $1,000 or something, and, you know, don't just take that chance, okay? That someday someone's gonna come and wanna do something.
And the thing that's really sad, I just found this out today, is what doesn't sell at the tax sale, she bundles them and sells all of them in one lot. And so she's selling what wasn't sold in August at the tax sale is being bundled into 17 buildings, and you bid on it and you get all 17 buildings.
Where's this?
This is Fulton County.
Anywhere? These buildings are all anywhere.
They could be anywhere, right?
And so whoever, you know, if you want one building and you bid on it, and who knows what happens to the rest of the buildings.
And you gotta bid on it.
So that's anti-incentive.
Well, she has a reason.
I know, I'm sure she does.
So, relative to this registry, for just an overall arching strategy, I think somewhere I'd like to see the village adopt a graphical information system. If they had a GIS system, they could immediately pull it up and say, well, these are all of our vacant
I thought
properties.
that's what they've done. I thought they've been doing that.
What's that?
I thought this was something that the village has been working on, GIS system.
HDC has it, but I don't know that
Well,
anyone
it
else
makes
uses it.
Can they share it?
Yeah, the county has GIS, they have all the properties on that, so
I'm
if
going
you
to a
know.
demonstration tomorrow down at Upton School District.
Oh, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do like the vacant.
But for the
property.
village to have its own system, no.
Yep, the HDC has their own system. I can pull up any building in the HDC district, give you its current owner, its 3-year tax history, its tax ID number, its former names. We did that for the HDC. It's not gonna be that hard to extend that to the entire village.
So these people who buy the buildings and just sit on them, they pay their taxes?
No.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah.
You might, the minimum.
But you may wait and pay the last tax, always 2 years.
So they're gambling, you know, they're rolling dice. And if they just walk away from it, they walk away from it. But that takes years, okay, for that to happen. Meanwhile, the property keeps going down. So did we want to add that strategy, or?
Yes.
That GIS, how much will that cost though?
You'll find out, get much more information tomorrow at the Hope and
Well,
Common
you know,
meeting.
there is that meeting tomorrow, I won't be able to attend unfortunately, I'll be out of town, but that's why I'm wondering what the expense is to our village for that.
Depends on how much
Yes.
information you want in it.
Okay.
But at least get your
That's
training, I mean,
very
you know, is that in the county system then, that you're getting trained on?
I don't, I'm just going to see the demonstration.
It's
tomorrow.
a demo,
Whoop-a-doo doing the presentation.
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so,
It's 10 o'clock, CCISD tomorrow. In case you're not busy.
okay.
The GIS thing.
So then working with local citizens, adopt a lot, you know, getting people involved and helping to clean up the village. It's gotta be made more of a priority. You know, I was walking around here Saturday, it's a beautiful day, great for taking photos, and I am gonna throw a bunch more, you know, some more photos in this, but I've been waiting for good weather and, you know, what it was like last week. But anyway, I did note, you know, is there, you know, a lot of sand on the roads and get out of the business district.
I have a question or a comment about the strategy 1.4. I think that's great. Work with local citizens interested in keeping vacant lots clean and maintained. Adopt a lot program. Now, there's a little, what has prevented some local citizens from doing those kinds of things is the village and other things say, it's private property, we can't, you know, there's liability, we can't, you know, do anything about other people's vacant lots. So what do you do about that? Is that built, that's under the blight and the main?
Well, I think here we're talking about public lands.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't go on someone's property and start taking their collection away. You know, I know there's a big one going down the street here.
I mean, even pulling weeds, you know, if it's a weed lot, I don't know. I mean, can you pull them all?
Let's start with keeping
Keep
village
the trash.
property clean. Start there, okay, get that done. Worry about,
My husband usually goes out every morning and looks around the neighborhood, and there's at least 5 storm drains in the area where we live, and he makes sure after it rains, they're all cleared away. He takes debris away from the sidewalks in that whole area. That's it.
so again, then, you know, publicly thanking people, you
Yeah.
know, for their contributions. So there are some programs out there to help in terms of financing and so forth, so, you know, the village should have that information on hand and make it available, maybe have a rack somewhere in the building where, you know, you can have brochures and things for, road and so forth.
One more comment on the street and the, you know, vacant lots. Also, I know Shelley, who's not here tonight, I know this is one of her pet projects that she'd love to see is building owners, and, you know, citizens taking care of the sidewalks that are in front of their buildings and the curb gutters. The gutters where all that stuff collects. If people can maintain it in front of their buildings. And unfortunately, in front of their neighbors' buildings that, you know, the derelict building owners, you know, I mean, that's something that, you know, you kind of have to do, but pulling weeds in the sidewalks, cracks, there's a lot of weeds next to buildings that shouldn't be there. That's something that maybe we can talk about, just add sidewalks in there too, maybe in gutters.
Okay, so there's other information, NEDC brownfields and so forth. Now, Kita's little prospectus has a lot of this information in it. So it's good to, you know, stay up on top of all the potential tools that you can put in your toolbox. Having a village-wide cleanup day, you know, and so forth. Addressing housing demand, actively recruiting developers, and getting certified through the Redevelopment Ready Communities program will be very helpful. And using, you know, somebody wants to know, hey, what's the housing demand here in Holton County? Here's the target market analysis. Tells you everything you want to know. So that's it for housing. Looking good so far? Okay. Infrastructure, community facilities, public system, a guide for public system improvement decisions. You know, we got a small geographic area here, utilities are all in place, all served by streets and roads. It's not like we have to think about extending roads to new areas and so forth. We need to take care of what we already have. So, we do have a capital improvement plan, and there's a lot of benefits for doing that. That was adopted by the council. I was glad to see that. It was very helpful. I also talked to Chris Holmes at DP Engineers and Architects, who has over time been doing, served as kind of the village's engineering firm. And so all this information here comes from, and again, the sewer system, you don't have to worry about that. That's taken care of in North Fulton County Sewer Authority. But the water system, water is purchased from a company that you guys own the pipe, as I understand it. So this is all from the capital improvements plan of all the work that is being recommended. That you have costs in the plan as well. And you can see there's a lot to do. And in any community, there's lots to do. These systems are old, you know, many of them are 100 years old or more. And and a lot of work has been done over the years, I know, but there's still things to do.
Who pays for this? Does the village pay for this, these sewer pipe replacements and fixing?
That's part of your sewer fees that you pay, right?
On your water bill?
We're on the water line, so
Okay, so the village takes care of it.
we own it, but we own everything but the full-time water, through the sewer, is maintaining.
The wastewater system. But you maintain the water system.
Correct.
But the water, you don't own your source, you purchase the water from the social water company. So that's why there's a lot of work outlined for the water system. And then this, the sanitary system and the storm are reported to be in good condition. Sidewalks and streets, we do address that in public facilities, Parks and Rec, again, in another section here. And then we do have the buildings inventory here that the village owns. I think most of them, of course, this building across the street, the Red Jacket Fire Hall, Department of Public Works, and then there's a few village-owned buildings as well. So goals, maintain what you have, implement and update the capital improvements plan. And again, they look 6 years out on the capital improvements plan. So every year you do some work, you budget money, you do some work, those projects come off, you add new ones on the other end. So it's always an annual process. It's a very good thing to have, and especially when suddenly a grant opportunity comes up. Hey, we got money for public works, community development block grant. You know what you need. It's there, it's in your CIP. They now want to see it in your capital improvements plan. It's something that the state of Michigan has kind of been pushing as part of that redevelopment ready communities program. Then you have a capital improvements plan. Believe it or not, there are only a couple communities in the upper peninsula that have that. Over and up. Until more recently. So goal 2, stabilize publicly owned buildings. And again, you're going to need some partners for that. And there has been some efforts in that regard and some success. Parks and Rec, you do not have a Parks and Recreation plan that I was aware of. We did look a little bit. But if you want to be eligible for the grants, by putting the Parks and Rec plan in your master plan, it serves, and actually DNR likes to see that.
Can you do that? Can you do that in this plan?
Yeah,
That's what
but all we need though, and you're gonna see, is what are we gonna do, okay? And, so I kinda had to make this up, but in a sense, this is your, kind of your typical organization chart. Sometimes some communities have a Parks and Rec committee or a Parks and Rec commission, a group that's formally charged with, planning, recreation facilities for the community. So I thought, good job for the planning commission here. And of course, the community input to the planning commission and the village council. So I'm not sure, this is a requirement, previous grant assisted projects. And I don't recall the village getting DNR grant money to do anything with recreation.
I think most of it has been township, you know,
I think
because
so.
Right.
most of those recreational
Yeah.
facilities are in the township, not the building.
Right.
But, one thing, you know, Legacy Park has been wanting to improve those paths for many, many years. That would be a good one. I mean, that could be a DNR grant, correct?
Yes.
That should be a focus.
Do you have matching money?
Maybe. Maybe we can do a fundraiser. I don't know, but,
Because when you apply, you have to state that
yeah.
you're gonna have the money.
But
And so,
maybe, you know, maybe we could come together or,
So who would actually do the work?
I don't know, but I mean, that's
Would it be this Parks and Rec group you're talking about?
the planning commission to come up with this plan. Are you
No,
talking
I
about?
meant the actual physical labor of fixing.
oh, you hire that out. Oh, you say,
Yeah,
All
yeah,
around bids and.
right. You just gotta find a way to come up with a match for
Yeah.
a grant, if you're gonna apply for a grant, but that could be one of the goals of our rec plan.
Right, so, here, we have the inventory of,
All the areas, huh?
of Agassiz Park,
Yeah.
of the village recreation, Agassiz Park Theater Park, County Hall Park, and then you say there's
It's
a,
a sculpture park, they call it, the little pocket park next to the Bucko's Park.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful little
Got
space.
Garter in.
Huh?
Got Garter in.
Yeah, go right.
right back here.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
That's coming along nicely.
Yeah, and that was a volunteer. I mean, it was a group effort by several groups, but right now it's volunteer that's doing it. But also in the theater park, it has, for this year, been the site of a lively farmer's market. So that's something that's happening in the theater park right
I
now.
bought some stuff there Saturday morning.
And it done nice.
Sure, it's rather good.
So that's a good space, I guess, for that.
It is perfect. I got some nice photos, actually.
There's talk of, you know, using, if we had any vacant land or something, using it for community gardens. That's always a popular thing. I don't know where we would put it in this. But
That's in here.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it is.
And maybe that's right. That's right. I heard it. Okay, go.
It's all right. It's all right. Okay, so, then in addition, you know, of course, we can look at Polk up and Slow where you stop, but in the immediate area is the Calumet Lake. You know, the Coliseum, I'm told I spelled this wrong.
Yes, you did.
Or somebody spelled it
In
wrong.
19.
Yeah.
So what is the correct spelling?
COLOSS.
COLOSSEUM. Okay. I'll make that change. It's easy. Sweetown Trails, the snowmobile, ATV trail.
This is where I like to jump in. I think the village needs a defined access on and off of the trail. And it may be something like you come off of Elm Street, you come up to 6th Street and you go back on Oak Street. But especially for the snowmobile traffic. Ideally, there should be a snow lane for those, especially if we ever get to the point of repaving our roads and the damage that the snowmobiles do if they aren't on snow. But if we had a way to easily, a defined link to that, off of the trail, this is how you get to restaurants, bars, and gas stations.
That is the route, not just any route you.
Right,
So the new goal would be,
to define and sign a route.
okay, well, the goal would be to
Establish-
have designated access, right?
Yes,
Routes.
the Trail 17.
For snow machines and ATVs.
Because Trail 17 is now designated as a multi-use trail. So it is snowmobiles, ATVs, and even four-wheel drive vehicles.
So
And
then
how
the
about
strategy would be to define what those are, okay? And I'll come up with words.
Okay?
And I just want to add, because of the non-motorized groups that are around here, I would imagine that you guys know that a lot of people use that route to get from Calumet to Hancock, Hancock to Calumet, and non-motorized people do too. But it is one of the most popular routes to get from here and there. The problem is it's sandy and it's, there's problems. I remember Paul was talking about trying to pave a section of it. And I think the ultimate goal with, I think the Calumet National Park had it in their cultural landscape report, was the ultimate would be to have a non-motorized side, path and a motorized path. I don't know when that will happen, but that's another thing that's another goal that two communities have to come together and find money for. But that, I think, is a very important goal to connect our community with other places. So I'd like to see something about non-motorized paths, existing in there too.
But for me, the designated path for snowmobiles and ATVs, part of that involves speed control. Is that you have a defined path, and this is a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, and you just don't race through town.
Good input. Number 6, downtown development. So again, wonderful opportunity, very unique. In 1978, I came into the area and I decided to take a ride up to Calumet. And when I was working on my master's degree, urban planning, I kind of specialized in downtown development and historic preservation. Believed in that was, you don't tear down buildings and build new ones. You preserve these unique architectural buildings and so forth. And so I came in Old Jacket Road, and when I made that turn on the 5th Street, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The human scale of 5th Street and those magnificent buildings just blew my mind. So that is so unique, and not just the Upper Peninsula, but really the scale of 5th Street. Of course, historically, it was supposed to be an alley, right? But people avoided the high taxes on 6th Street by building commercial buildings on 5th. That's what I've heard.
Oh, I never heard that.
Well, 6th Street,
I knew 6th
big,
Street
wide,
was supposed to be
grand,
the big street.
Calumet things were done on a very grand scale. I mentioned the CNH master plan. So, all the streets are on this wide, grand scale. Except for 5th Street. It's going to be an alley. Wasn't it out?
That's interesting.
And it ended up that people, people are always trying to outsmart the government, right? And pay less taxes.
Even way back then.
You know what's still amazing is so many people that come into our place and to any other place in this area from Chicago, from everywhere else say, oh my gosh, I didn't know there was such a place. And how many people live here? I mean, it blows them away. And even with the historic fabric that we've lost, I mean, I count back 30 buildings ago and say, if you should have seen it, But
So, major downtown challenges still is the infrastructure side, the sidewalks, lighting, streets, and parking. A lot of sidewalks have been replaced, but there's still some bad sections and areas, and those are really important. And it's expensive, because again, we have these grand sidewalks. Does Houghton have 12-foot wide sidewalks in their downtown? No. Those are 8 feet if they're lucky. So you've got great big huge scale sidewalks, many coal bins underneath. And funding that, of course, is difficult because your property values keep going down. That's the whole idea behind the property maintenance code, is you've got to turn that around. And you got to start hammering on people or ruining it for everyone. So, but the big challenge is, of course, is that loss of fabric, as Lori said. Buildings, it's easier to tear them down and fix them. Downtown's kind of getting fragmentation. Demolition by neglect. And then kind of the perception that, all low-income housing is here. All those things affect investor, developer confidence. And so you got to keep pushing on that, working with your partners.
one little thing that, I don't know if it can be addressed in there, a challenge that we have is, I think in some of the retail spaces on the first floor, they're still occupied by rental units in the front, so they're blocked off basically, and they're rental units behind housing units on the first floor.
I think your zoning ordinance doesn't allow that.
It doesn't allow it anymore, but is there a
So,
way to?
Yeah, how do you do that?
How?
Get the rents up, okay? That's how you do it. And this is what has to happen, okay? You need to get your rents up. The lowest, they're cheap. They're too cheap. And until the developer can go, or the building owner can go, why am I renting this out for $500 a month when I can get double that for retail? That's what has to happen. Plain and simple. You gotta increase property values. So, I don't know how else you do that. I don't think you can. You can't tell somebody, hey, you can't have, you have to get rid of that rental unit, put a retail there. The guy goes, wait, there's no market.
Yeah. Well, there is market here for when a building is properly maintained, the spaces do rent.
Yep.
And they're
And
being
just my
sold.
impression from being around here, this town is busy. It's busy. I'd like to know what the traffic count is on 6th Street. Because there are a lot of people coming to Calumet, over in the north end, Keywood, to do their shopping. I think there's probably more traffic heading south on 6th than there's going north.
But they had to go north first in order to go south.
Well, no, they can go around, anyway, you have some redevelopment opportunities. And so I address this, and again, that development prospectus prepared by KeyDOT, trying to get funding and trying to get investors' interest. But I couldn't say it any better myself, what comes right out of that report. You've got a lot going for you here. You know, and then Calumet's the proverbial diamond in the rough, whose development potential has its low cost of entry, you know, regional for housing, and available market area visitor population to support mixed-use development. Now, some, one of the stories talking is that bestseller ever, Tony Bazzano, bestseller ever, they just can't believe.
I think there's been a lot of tourism through this summer.
Oh, it's been amazing, yeah, came on the harbor, but hoping to, you see them on the sidewalks.
You know what?
everywhere. It's,
We get a lot of people coming back from the harbor or that have been up there and they're a little bored. If they're from Chicago, they come here, you know, and we've seen them in Calumet. I think, you know, and most people say, I didn't know West Calumet still. But we have a good position of being in the center of the Calumet Peninsula.
Right.
That's what we market, you know, to people. We say, you know, we are the hub of all, you get to all these places easier than if you're at one end or the other.
So there's economic development tools, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, which Fulton County has one, and Michigan EDC, Historic Preservation Tax Credits, Revolving Loan Funds, EDA, and this came out of that prospectus, or actually a proposal, as the priorities.
I had a question about this. Before this meeting, I had some time in my hands, so I'm walking around and I wanted to see all three of those buildings. Of course, I found Curto and I found that Hercule building, but I did not find Sullivan Liberty.
That's the little
N&M
Oh, I didn't realize that was what that was.
Yeah.
That was a Liberty once?
Used to be.
Can I just interject a little bit of just historically why the DDA owns some of these buildings?
Is it necessary? Or are we gonna be here all night?
No, we're not going to be on that. It's
Okay,
just that,
well, I just wanna keep things moving,
Yeah.
it is
we just get,
8:30, so.
it's, some of these buildings, you know, the DDA basically saved them from collapsing. So, it's not like, you know, the DDA gets these buildings like they're gonna be able to turn them around tomorrow and resell them. It's a preservation thing. So, that's all I wanted to say.
Oh, okay.
That's what I wanted to say.
I wasn't sure.
We get a lot of criticism for why do we own these buildings. It's,
And I'll send the correction later, but throughout the document, we use 215 Portland, and it's 512.
It's what?
It's 512 Portland.
Well, this came out of something else.
And the DDA.
I've been sitting here trying to figure out where
No, they don't.
215 Portland Street is, and I didn't want to ask because I thought I should know that,
East
so.
Village.
Okay,
Hey,
so somebody got it.
It's a scope of building, not that.
Yeah.
So again, you can see just to stabilize 3 buildings, over $500,000.
Do we say that we got a
Agnes
grant
Park?
for the Kergel building? That stabilization is in process?
I wasn't aware of that.
Got a $34,000 grant last fall, and the new roof will be going on it in the next month.
This month, yeah.
Should we add the Agnes block to that, publicly owned buildings?
It's already mentioned under publicly
Yeah,
owned
it's,
buildings.
it's.
But that, again, these were the priorities
Oh, okay, I got it.
that somebody else determined here, according to that report. Yes.
So, I'm sorry, did we say that the village does own these 3 buildings or does not?
No,
No.
Does not.
no, just,
These are private, the other 2 are private.
The other buildings, the other 2 are owned by the
Houghton County Land Bank.
County Land Bank, right? So, again, redevelopment right communities is a great tool, and it's important that you continue to pursue that designation. So, you know, proactively work to stabilize the fabric and building inventory downtown. Again, adopt and enforce appropriate light dilapidated building rental inspection ordinance and using municipal civil infractions methodology for enforcement. So it doesn't have to go to the county prosecutor, it's a parking ticket, it's like a ticket. With escalating fines for non-payment. There, you know, and I think you've had some presentations on that, and there are some ways to do that. Continue to work with key MEDC, the Land Bank, National Park, and so forth. Become redevelopment-ready community, demonstrate that you're ready to work with developers. And you know, having a seated planning commission that has their act together, same thing with DDA, very important. If you have to tell a developer, well, you gotta wait 6 months, like these people do tonight, get their conditional use permit, right? Oh, setting kind of work. You gotta be ready to go. I mean, you know, they'll go down the hill or somewhere else, you know, if it's gonna take too long. And that's what redevelopment ready community is. It's a demonstration that you're prepared as a community to effectively deal with development, new development. And there's all kinds of things, having property information packets on these things. If somebody walks in the door and says, hey, I'm interested, I understand the village owns that thing over there, you know, here's the data on it. You know, and that might be available, but to have that available, be very, you know, developer packets is called. Make downtown more pedestrian and bike friendly, install bike racks, have, you know, a wayfinding system. It's been talked about forever. You know, if I'm a tourist, I ride my bike up from Hancock on the trail, or my snow machine, or my ATV. I'm like, oh, where am I? Where do I go? Where can I get lunch? Where can I get my bike fixed? You know, where can I use a bathroom? Painting robust crosswalks, you know. Crosswalks don't just have to be white lines, they can be creative, they can be artistic. And I'll find some images to go along with this.
I'm just wondering.
Like fishing towns are fish, okay, you know. You don't want fish, but you might have something else, you know, in the crosswalk, just fun, whimsical kind of thing.
Squirrels, chickens, skunks, woodchucks.
I would just interject one thing, that this is within a historic district, so you might, the HDC might have something to say about that, I don't know.
You don't rule on paint?
Huh?
You don't rule on paint?
Yeah.
It's going on the pavement, it's temporary, you know.
It's safe.
And again, they probably never used to paint crosswalks. They do now, okay, and pre-automobiles,
Let's
so.
see some, I'd like to see some, we don't have any, I don't think we have any.
Yeah, we do.
lines. Do we have lines
Yeah.
right now?
There's a few, okay, but they should be at every corner. Now, that costs money, okay? It's easy to see why, you know, that doesn't happen, but it's, you know, it's easy and it's nice to have nice crosswalks. It's like, why do we paint curb yellow? Have you ever been out west to paint red rather than yellow?
So you
How
can
else
see
is you can see?
them? So you can see them?
Nothing worse in my mind than brand new sidewalk and they paint that curb, you know, a brand new curb and gutter, and then they paint that thing yellow. And red, I was just in Anchorage recently, and they paint, they don't use yellow, they use red. Just is so much nicer.
Is there any
It's
rules?
like don't park there.
Yeah, it's like, don't, you know, that's why we paint curb yellow,
Mhm.
is,
Is there any rules with color?
yeah, probably on MDOT, trunk routes, I'm sure, you know, they have all kinds of rules.
One thing that could be improved just in our town is if they went overspray. It was just neat and done. It'd be-
Okay, we got a lot of stuff to go through here. Residential, we described what we have on the ground. call your attention to smart growth, having a range of housing, having walkable neighborhoods, having community stakeholder collaboration, having an attractive community, making developer decisions fair. And that's an important part of zoning as well. Mixing land uses and so forth. So, you have a lot of these tenants already. Take advantage of compact design. And this is where you're at. You're a very livable, walkable community. This describes kind of future land use and existing land use. Zoning plan. Your ordinance isn't too bad. I've seen lots worse. I'm serious, okay? But it was done in 1990, and the world's a different place today. So it needs updating. And so just a few things that kind of came to my mind. I think you've got about 7 pages of definitions. I recently did an update to the zoning ordinance, and there's 30 pages of definitions today. It all comes down to words. And so you need lots of definitions. What's a vacation rental by owner, by the way? Things like that.
That's
So you need definitions. Try to get your fee schedule out of there so that it can be modernized. $25 for zoning or whatever, or conditional use permit. Probably got 300 into it, huh, Joe?
Yeah, at least 150.
That should put
So,
in somewhere.
City Marquette for a variance or a special use permit, $600.
Oh,
Well, should taxpayers be forced to subsidize somebody else's whim or their idea? No, the fee should cover the costs.
and I think that's why the village could, make some money that it deserves to make on these things.
You don't need to make money, I don't think you want to
Well,
gouge
it's
people.
how it
but-
costs.
Anyway, there's some things here, you need to update your lists of permitted and special uses and so forth. And then, some other things I won't go on with, along accessory dwelling units, and so forth. So, consider form-based code for at least downtown, if not the entire village, and that's a little different than typical zoning. Concern more about form than use.
Have you seen our guidelines, the HDC guidelines? The HDC guidelines for the historic district are essentially form-based.
So maybe combine those, And I've written a number of form-based codes in Marquette and also other places as well. So that, some people really like them. It's a lot better in an old developed community, and especially one that's already is a mixed use unit. I mean, you've got industrial mixed in with residential, mixed in with commercial. It's, okay, land use, one way to get the rentals, the housing rentals out of the storefront is provide an incentive, to do that.
Tax and finance, how do you?
Well, through the various tools that are available for development, you could, even you have facade improvement grants, you could say, hey, we'll subsidize, you're getting that housing unit out of there.
The DDA has a design assistance grant that it's doing right now, and a building restoration, rehab, and stabilization grant.
You can prioritize, again, you make an incentive, okay, that's the idea, to get the housing out of the inventory. Of course, all this stuff is pretty, I don't want to say standard, but, it's good planning. Encourage new development, a redevelopment that's compatible with the scale and architecture of existing properties. You know, not having long blank walls. Like if you were to get, you know, like a Family Dollar wanted to build a vacant lot. Heaven forbid. But, you know, they try and plot their standard store down in their historic district. Well, you have your HDC, but also having appropriate zoning and so forth. Again, that light rental inspection ordinance, you know, improving your infrastructure, streets in the neighborhoods will encourage private investment. Walking over on 8th Street and 7th, I mean, sidewalks, all of us can help, and really a hazard to walk on.
In this section, I would like to add, develop a consistent policy on alleys. And use and maintenance of the alleys in the residential district.
I think that's so underutilized, our alleys, and they need cleanup, but yeah.
But we need a plan as to, are they motorized, do they become garage access? Are they utility alleys only? Should they be, how should they be maintained? Who maintains them?
Okay?
Years ago, the people that lived in front or behind them always took care of the alleys. You know, when I was growing up, we had beautiful alleys throughout our neighborhood.
So what happened?
As the property owners died or moved away, new ones came in and they didn't take care of the alleyways anymore. You know, there's some beautiful alleyways in Lorium and Calumet still, but even behind my house now going, it's quite long grass. I don't know if you could drive through it.
So who owns the alleys? Is it the property owners? Is it the village?
We used to call it the fire lanes.
I believe it's a right away.
Huh?
Right away.
Right away.
So it's a village-owned thing, so, okay, well, that's something, a publicly owned property that should be maintained.
Yeah.
Maybe it has to be by volunteers, but
Okay, so I just found out that if there's a natural gas line there, Sunco is required to keep it open.
And that's right behind my house, because they had to come through there.
Just before this meeting.
I thought I had heard about it.
You don't know
That's
yet?
what I was thinking.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, they're right behind my house.
even in the winter, wow.
no. Well, because the other comment is that the water lines in our alleys are not very deep. And if you plow them in the winter time,
freeze.
you're gonna have a water freezing
Yeah.
problem.
Exactly.
So it's,
Needs to be studied.
it needs to be studied.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was
That's
specifically related to talking to our fire chief and
Yeah.
will you bring a Calumet fire truck into our alley? And he says it depends. Where, when, how bad the fire is, there's a lot of ifs.
And for example, there's I think it's called Ash Lane. It actually has a name, our alley that runs by our house all the way right behind here. That's paved, and I think alley is used a lot by trucks, by, people coming and going, so. But it ends there's a blocked off section across the street.
But that's why I didn't mention this until we got to the residential section, because I think it's the residential area that we really need to understand.
Yeah.
And how we plan.
Yeah.
Let's continue on.
Okay.
Starting to get kind of late.
Alleys are interesting to work on.
Well, I would say 2 hours, is plenty for a meeting like this. It's hard enough, so I'll try and move us right along here. But the transportation section, again, you maintain and own the streets. But considering complete streets, that when there are improvements made, that the village consider all users and not just automobiles. And of course, in the last decade, I will say there's been a complete revolution in terms of transportation planning in the United States. We have bicycles and pedestrians now. actually are, up there a lot on the wall. Complete Streets policy really emphasizes that. Wasn't that long ago, people said, well, why would anyone walk when they can drive? So, where's the entrance to the village? If you're coming up 41, where's the entrance to the village?
Red Jacket Road.
Red Jacket.
The official one is Red Jacket Road.
That's, and again, with the work that the Park Service has done with the new Red Jacket Road, street and sidewalk, wonderful entrance. But of course, we still have, out at, 6th Street. I wonder when we're going to stop calling 6th Street Extension, 6th Street
I
Extension.
know.
I think we all know that now. Why don't we just call it 6th Street? Rather than 6th Street Extension. I mean, why don't we do that? Huh?
Where is Armory Road? Gateway should be implemented at Armory Road.
It's a little road by
Yes,
Episcopal Church to the Calumet Arts Center.
That's a good gateway coming off of 6th Street Extension.
Right.
Armory Road.
To Fifth.
So, again, landscaping treatments, and of course, at US 41, that is not in the village. Okay, 6th Street Extension. That's the township, but the township might be willing to consider working with the village on dressing up that. But again, trying to make that impression, I think most people don't even know this exists. Okay, they're right by visitors. Of course, we don't know where it is, because we live here, but, again, it's your,
Another, just the complete streets, I wish it would have to be utilized by the township is, that's just a darn dangerous intersection for, if kids are trying to come across the street on that 6th Street from Lake Linden Avenue coming over. Oh, I hate crossing that on a bike, or it's just really.
It's wide, it's
really
too wide and it's busy and.
And it's not safe. That they should.
So we gotta assess conditions of sidewalks throughout the community to determine priorities for replacement. I don't know if that's ever been done, but that would be a good thing to do. Where do we need sidewalks and what's the scope of that? So we've got the capital improvements plan again was used to identify priorities. Rebuild 4th Street, Red Jacket, Elm Pine. Again, this came right out of your capital improvements plan. Goals and strategies. Maintain and update your streets. Implement and update a new capital improvements plan. And whenever you're doing sewer, water, and reconstruction, plan for them to be compliant.
And
Look for grant opportunities, apply for transportation enhancement grants, improve pedestrian and bike transportation facilities, creating a wayfinding system. Again, as well as from the snowmobile ATV trails. So again, figuring that out, where do you want these things to go? Bikes, ATVs, snowmobiles. What are other destinations that people need to know? New medical center, village hall, police. You list out all the places potentially that people want to go, restrooms, and then you put together a little wayfinding system. So when you get a village website, post tourism information, maps and so forth. Again, painting bold and interesting crosswalks, making that fun. We're getting near the end. I'm going to breeze through the winter life and vitality. This is my little niche that I like to throw in master plans, because how can we live in a northern place and not talk about winter?
Exactly.
So, you'd be surprised the number of master plans around Hancock, others don't even talk about it. How can you not? Okay. So we have great opportunities, lots of good things, but, you know, there's also challenges with winter, cost for snow management, slip and fall incidents, seasonal affective disorder, difficult for people to get around. So if we're going to be a winter city, we need to embrace that and find ways to enhance the positive aspects of winter while working on to make the bad side better. So I included a lot of winter design.
Okay, you have pictures of snow scenes locally then? Is that the input here?
I'd love to.
I think we have access to them. I know that when you go to the website, I think we have orders or something, some folks.
Yeah, I'd love to get some skiers and, you know.
We're including some professional pictures on the website and should be able to get those for this also.
We've had, I don't know if anybody ever took any pictures of, they did have a pond, or they had a little ice rink in Agassiz Park for a while. I don't know if anybody ever took images of that, but.
So what's interesting about this image, this is in Anchorage, obviously mountains, but they have a lake there in town, and they create huge skating pathways.
Oh, that
All
was
around.
so much
So
fun.
wherever you see people there, those are all ice skating pathways. They just
Cool.
wind around on Westchester Lagoon. I lived right by here when I lived in
Yeah.
Anchorage, and ski trails going around it. You know, they have bike paths that they groom for skiing in the wintertime.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, those kind of things. But I'd love to get some local photos in here, and I did take some on Saturday that I'm going to be inserting here. You know, some of these are from other places, but they're, for example, okay, you know, look at how nice that looks, okay? The lights in public space. You know, like next door here at the Theater Park or Agassiz Park.
Lights are amazing. in the winter.
Lights
That's
are
what we
wonderful
need.
in winter cities because it's so dark.
Yes.
This is in Sioux, Ontario. It's part of their Bonsu. They pile up snow, they have a guy come and carves this, and they get thousands and thousands of people who want to slide down the most. So this strategy, collaborate with other organizations to expand upon what you already have with the Copper Dog and really turn it into something.
Using the snow dumps for.
Really turn it into
Yeah.
something. You know, this photo, Quebec City,
Cool.
you know, not quite, a little less, more pedestrian scale than Fifth Street, but, you know, they put Christmas trees, evergreens, spruce, whatever, just up against the buildings, and then they put lights on them. In the wintertime, it's just, you know, and stuff up above, it's just so enchanting.
It is.
And I can't come up with a better word, but I really didn't like ski town.
Huh?
To create the ski town image, it's just like,
Winter.
but I don't have a better word.
Winter.
No, but have you ever been out west skiing or, you know, it's the place where people go after they go skiing, okay? It's the ski town. Who's the ski town here?
We are.
Might as well be you.
They come here after.
You know, you got,
What's Bohemia's?
1,200 people skiing on a weekend up on Mount Bohemia. Where are they staying?
We ought to be taking advantage of it.
Okay, we're getting near the end. This is a little bit unique chapter, but I think it's good to put it in here. I do. And talking about the collaboration and consolidation, the whole idea of, you know, looking at the Calumet, greater Calumet area. Like there was a lady at the meeting earlier, she goes, well, I don't live in Village, but I live in Calumet. Right?
Yeah.
How many calls do you get? People go, hey, I got a problem. I remember the former person asked the phone, he said, where do you live? Oh, you're not Calumet. What do you mean? So people don't know, a lot of people, whether in the village, township, Orion, whatever.
I lived in Orion, and I went to school downstate, people would ask me where I was from, it's Calumet, and that's what you do.
The point is, the study was done by some students, and, you know, they didn't look at everything, but they looked at taxes and costs and so forth. This is really key, is that because you have the redundancy to some degree, that you're all paying more in taxes as a result. And there's less money. You're paying more, there's less money to do stuff. So I really think, you know, and then I quote more stuff in there from that study. It was pretty well done. It had a number of scenarios, you know, doing nothing, service sharing, like getting together, having one fire department or whatever. You already kind of do that with water and sewer.
In schools.
Schools. So there were, you know, one just, you know, village would say, hey, we're broke, we can't keep going, dissolve it. And then people are going to go, then what? Okay, now the road commission going to have to plow snow here in the village, and what are the implications of that?
When you become what it's like in townships, much less.
You know, I think, you know, and then something I looked for, but I didn't see in the TV report is Act 51 money. Now, Jim Manderfield, former county road commissioner, told me once he did a study years ago that if this became one city here, that just the Act 51 money alone, because villages get less per mile than cities, and I haven't been able to confirm that, but that was the point of his study.
It was the opposite. The villages get more than cities, and they get tremendously more than.
Act 51.
Township doesn't get anything.
We don't get anything. I mean, and even the road commission, you guys get like $19 a mile or something like that. And it's tremendously, and that's one of the big concerns with dissolving the village is you're going to be losing out on so much road money. And that's where Paul, you know, people come and talk to Paul all the time about this kind of stuff. And people make it sound like it's so easy. And it's not. But why can't you do, and that's one of the big things in the village is we're losing out on a whole lot of major roads, you know.
No, but I understand cities under the formula get more. But
I could be very wrong on that too.
I might be too, I don't know. And that's
They get
why
more
I
than
say may receive a higher
Cities get more than
level.
villages.
Okay, I misunderstood.
So anyway, you know, I think that there's a lot of good information in this report, and I think that the dialogue needs to continue.
Agreed.
In fact, you ought to have, you know, and maybe the village needs to initiate it, because, you know, there's a lot of pros and cons. But what's best for the area, right? So anyway, enough said. You know, you need to continually be recruiting and educating your public officials and volunteer boards. You know, sending people to the Michigan Municipal League and, you know, planning commission training and so forth. I think that the plan is a good example of how community involvement can work. Where you have a formal public participation. So that's something that redevelopment of our communities is going to want to see, is a public participation.
Is that like participating in volunteering, lot, you know, clean up and things like that? Is that what you're talking about? There? Or in policy?
What now?
Where you said the village should prepare a formal public participation plan that identifies how the community will be involved in engagement.
Yeah, if the village council is going to tackle Agassi Park, they want to get community input.
Okay.
How are they going to do that? you know, put an ad in the paper, or you can send out, you know, something with the water bills, or, you know, every community's different, website, posting it. Of course, there are requirements, you know, on the Public Meetings Act. But what are you gonna do beyond it? You know, Facebook page, or, you know, website, and where people can go, citizens, and find out, hey, what's going on? So you formalize that with a policy. Environmental sustainability, you know, this is really important. The Village of Lawrence is giving grant money to build solar facilities at their public facilities, and, you know, converting lighting systems to LED, community gardens, alternative energy production, and so forth. And promoting alternative transportation. That's all part of sustainability. So, and again, people are looking for that today in their community. And then just to update all of your village laws and regulations, you know, stay current, be more efficient, and improve enforcement as well. So fill vacancies. You know, how are you going to do that? There's some different ideas here. Training, you know, there should be like an orientation packet for new planning commissioners, or, you know, that might be something you want to work on as a planning commission. You know, every meeting we take a little whack at it. Just what should we have? Well, we should have a zoning ordinance, master plan, public act, okay? Any other background information, just have a little folder that we give a new person, you know, so that they can be more effective.
Yeah. One other thing that we have done in the past on the Planning Commission was, you know, the Planning Commission doesn't have something to review every month, but they still met and reviewed the plan or reviewed something. We did something every month. And somehow when we lost our last chairman, it just we just stopped meeting. So it's important to continually look at your plans.
That's why having a backlog of people interested in serving, you know, would be good, so that there isn't, you don't run into it all of a sudden. Because I'll tell you what, if you're planning commission and suddenly meeting after meeting, you're not getting quorums, people aren't showing up, you know, what do we do? You know, everybody else can quit coming too.
Yeah, the problem is such a small.
So, I know, you got a small pool there, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So improving communication, you know, Facebook is a good way. Of course, that needs to be monitored almost continuously, because people troll and so forth. And things, you know, people that, you know, maybe I should soften this a little bit. Consider creating a Facebook page, because if it's not going to be monitored, you know, it becomes a real problem. You've all read, you know, my motto now is don't read the comments.
Maybe consider creating a pizza.
Facebook is dying. Facebook is dying.
People are just nasty to each other, you know, it's awful. So, you know, improving the environmental sustainability, you know, just encouraging, putting bike racks on, you know, can be really helpful. By the way, when I came up here tonight, there were people riding bikes everywhere, you know, and really, so it's, people love it, you know, and I have a bike repair station to make your own minor bike repairs. And planting location appropriate
Station.
trees.
The kids come and ask for tools. We have one outside our.
Okay, so the action plan, last chapter, again, it takes all of the, or most of them, I will say not all of them, all the strategies and puts them into categories here. And so we've got those all kind of inventory.
I think the HDC that publicly recognize individuals who improve or their buildings or land. I think the HDC has done that. So I would include their name in there, that little responsibility.
And then, I don't know why this got smaller all of a sudden.
It did get smaller, Sandy,
Yeah.
it's just did. What time of day?
That's over there. All right, so, I did something here.
We got lots.
But I suggested some timelines here as well. Yeah, so, again, tried to go out a few years on this. Some things are just ongoing. Again, recognizing things take time. Okay, any comments, questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pat. This is very amazing.
Looks great, sir. This is great.
You like it?
Lots of, I hadn't seen it until tonight, so I gotta look it over.
Okay, so, take a look at it over the next, at the next meeting, then we'll run through and take your tweaks and.
So, our next meeting, but is this start the public?
Yeah, I guess it would be nice if you feel like there's sufficient, where did that say? Is it ready to go out for public review?
We can make some notes during the meeting. We're planning to.
We have a handful of things we're gonna add in the next couple days, and then I'll get it back to Joe.
Sounds good.
So it'd be good if you would then
No, I
recommend,
have to have this one for a couple of years. The other one I have.
recommend to the council that it is ready for distribution per the state law.
Do we need a motion for this?
I would make a motion that tonight's draft with a few edits is ready to be submitted to the village council for review and comment
And distribution,
and approval of
the
distribution.
public distribution process.
Chris, can I
Is that a
have-
motion?
That's a motion.
I'll support.
All right, any additional discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? You guys have it. Very good.
Review, comment, and distribution. Review, comment, and distribution. I'm assuming your map in the appendix is also a work in progress.
Yes, I got a couple more to do, yeah.
Okay, that existing land use, is that how it's currently used or how it's currently zoned?
Currently used.
Okay. Well, the other comment that I would make is that I believe this 49-page version should be submitted to the council, and that the appendix with the survey should be a link, because this survey is always, will be available on Main Street's website as a Michigan Tech report. It's available through Michigan Tech. I think when
And
you
it adds
start,
about 10 megabytes to the
Right.
file, right?
and when you start doing this, people are like, they're never going to read it. This is going to be feasible.
Is that this in bigger scale, like I copied from
This
the,
is one page, the whole, yeah.
okay,
And
so
also,
yeah,
if you
I
have, if you have
you
any,
got your 92 pages.
changes, anything that you found, stuff like that, send it to me, I'll consolidate it, and then I'll send it to Scott.
And when is the deadline for that?
He wants to mail this out.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
We're not gonna catch them all.
Right.
No, you can go to council with these additions, and meanwhile, I saw some other ones in there.
What, you did?
You guys did it, I
The
did.
alleys is something that would be.
Thank you.
Another comment that I would add, if you look
Yeah,
at
but it was very
the open house
educational.
second, how many of these comments were outside the village of Calumet? And it's just like, the village really needs to get their identity. People need to know, this is the village. Don't tell me about the Lions Park, because that's in the township. Sweetown is in the township, you know?
But you know what, that is that whole greater Calumet, and the thing is, we should be directing people, or they should be directed from there to here, and vice versa. You know, that's part of what we can offer, is the linkage to those wonderful resources, and having people come to see our historic resources.
All right, so before we adjourn the meeting, there are two things we need to consider for the next meeting. The first thing is, we need to recommend a citizen to the HDC to be on their board. So I'm thinking
So we
about
recommend president.
to the president,
Yeah, to the village president.
to the village president. All right, so that's one thing we need to think about.
For the next meeting?
Yeah.
The second thing is the zoning ordinance regarding today's changes. We need to think about any other zoning ordinance changes we want to submit. Like, just pretty much anything. If our zoning ordinance had been written for short-term rentals, we wouldn't have had to run through this today. So it's just a thought. If that bill goes through, then it's something we know anyway.
I still believe that local government will be permitted to regulate, but only on things like parking, and,
They can't
That
say
kind of
yes
thing.
or no. They won't be able to say yes or no, they can only,
They can put conditions in.
yeah.
So we're to submit somebody from the HDC to our president then, to stand on
Yeah.
Is there any restrictions for
List of
you?
the
citizens or,
HDC. Okay.
The agency's got to be a resident though, right? Has to be a resident of the village?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
So somebody who lives in the village, you have to.
Applications will be coming into the village by the 29th of this month, and
Right.
those applications should be forwarded to the planning commission.
Hey,
All right. So, I have
And do
somebody.
we just direct it, or this is gonna be discussed next time, just come with that person in mind? Or do we have this
we could just bring it up at the next meeting.
next meeting?
Yeah.
Sharon seconded that.
We have, somebody,
I guess.
you did?
I
Who
did.
made the second then?
Sharon did.
Sharon
Somebody
did.
did.
Do we all?
Be a good way to get rid of me. Until I hire a lawyer anyway.